Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining. My name is Georgia, and I'm part of the marketing team at Vamoos. Welcome to our webinar, AI is Rewriting Travel Search, Get Found, Not Forgotten with GEO. We will be having a Q&A session near the end of the webinar, so if you've got any questions, please use the Q&A box to write them out. We'll try and get to them at the end. The Q&A box is right at the bottom of the screen. Or use the chat box as well. If we don't manage to answer any of them, then we will send out the answers in our takeaways, which will be sent out over email next week along with the recording. We've got a great agenda ahead of us. Google will be speaking about how AI is reshaping travel search and paid ads, followed by a GEO action plan presented from Vamoos. I'm excited to get this webinar started, so I'm going to hand over to our moderator for today, Alistair Luxmore from Vamoos. Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia, and hello, everybody. It's great to be back. I hope some of you have been to some of our webinars before. They have been mostly about AI over the last couple of years. It feels like longer than that, doesn't it? The last couple of years. This one is also about AI, but very differently. It's about how your customers are using it, not how you're going to use it. And that's not saying we're not going to come back to that in due course. So, yeah, my name's Alistair Luxmore. I'm the founder of Vamoos. And as well as looking after the tech side of things, I have a small tour operator, Flea Winter, and a couple of hotels in Morocco, and also a yacht business. So I see travel from lots of different aspects. And I'm very much here as someone who's really interested in travel, not really with my Vamoos hat on. In fact, I'm going to start with a little story. And my first travel business, Flea Winter, was 20 something years ago, started in 2003. And by a pure coincidence, I started Flea Winter exactly 1 month after Google launched something called AdWords, or sponsored links. And I'd never heard of that before I started. It was a complete coincidence, but I fairly quickly worked that this was better than paying for little small ads in newspapers. And frankly, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Google Ads program. I was able to build a business over a few years using Google clicks. For those who are into that, it was about 30p a click. Remember those good old days? They are long gone. I'm not sure you could do that these days. So yes, I've got a very vested interest on what Google's interaction with the travel space. So previously, we've been doing these sessions as a sort of forum with a couple of presenters and a discussion. This one's a little bit different. This is much more about giving Lalit Gupta from Google the forum to tell us what's going on. And then my job is to ask the questions you want to ask on behalf of the travelers to try and understand as much as possible. And to help me do that, put your questions down in the Q&A or the chat area, so we can keep an eye on those. And I've got those on my other screen popping up, so hopefully I can do a good job for you representing that. But it's going to be really fascinating. We've seen a lot of changes with AI already, but I think there's going to be an awful lot more to come, particularly in the ad space. So anyway, let me introduce. Let me get Lalit to introduce himself, and then start talking about the first session. We're gonna split it up into two sections. We're going to first of all do the GEO, generative engine optimization, so the natural search, to use the old terminology, and then we're going to have a bit of a chat about that, and then we're going to come back and look at the how Google advertising is going to work in the future. And I think you're going to get some real insights into stuff that hasn't yet been publicly announced there as well. So anyway, that's enough about me. Over to Lali. Lali, do a bit of an intro for everybody yourself, and then dive on into your first section.
Well, thank you so much, Alistair, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Lalit. I am a senior industry manager here at Google. I've been at Google for a little over 13 years, based in London now, working with hospitality customers across the board. I'm very excited to chat to you all. And Alistair, I have to start by saying the days for 30 pence clicks may have gone, but the profitability is still being delivered to our travel partners. So I'm really excited to chat to everybody here. And thank you so much, everyone, for dialing in. Please keep popping in your questions. I'll quickly start sharing my screen and walk you through how AI is changing the way people are searching, especially in their moments of travel discovery. And so with that, I will kick things off on my end. Hopefully, everyone is able to see my screen right now. So the world is changing, and I don't think that's an understatement for once. AI is changing the way users engage with technology, it's changing the way how users seek information, and it's also changing what they expect in response. And that is the reason why we at Google are rethinking what it means to be helpful across all of Google's surfaces. A lot of the changes that we'll discuss today mean a fundamental shift in the way we address queries and therefore the way we should think about organic and paid as well. Now, primarily today, we're going to focus on search and how we think about responding to the 5 trillion queries we get each year in a more helpful and more thoughtful way. In 2025, we delivered an entire decade's worth of innovation in a single year. Gemini 3 is our best model to date. It's sweeping the leaderboards and setting new standard for artificial intelligence. We launched AI mode in the month of May last year. Nano Banana. We are expanding into Waymo. We introduced VO, which is our video generation tool. And furthermore, we're reimagining how Chrome as a browser can be powered by AI. What makes this unique to Google is our ability to have a full stack ownership of the AI. We don't rent our intelligence. We build the entire engine from the chips to the models to the ad platform. A competitive edge is your competitive edge. It means that breakthroughs happening in our labs today, like the reasoning capabilities of Gemini, have a direct proprietary path into the campaign tools that you're using. No other platform can promise that pipeline. What we're observing is that in just 1 year, there's been a profound shift in how people are using search. People used to come to Google and ask questions like things to do in Nashville, and now we're observing that they're asking longer and much more complex and nuanced questions. This has truly turned questions into quests. In AI mode, for example, we're observing that queries are 2 to 3 times longer than traditional search, and the better search gets at understanding and answering people's needs, the more customers expect off of it. AI is creating this radical shift in user expectations. Like I mentioned before, we're seeing much more longer searches with users expecting deeply contextual, personalized, and conversational experience. Users are also looking for efficiency, and I'll just showcase an example in about a minute in terms of the responses that they're getting from the search engine and being able to delegate cumbersome and time-consuming chores. If a task is boring, the agent should be able to handle it. And it is in that regard that customers are now coming to expect proactive assistance. Users want the search engine, the agent, to be able to work in the background, anticipate their needs, and figure out how to provide that persistent context and move fluidly across devices while giving easy, seamless, and personal responses. We are now heading beyond information. Search is moving into intelligence. The future is more intelligent, more personal, and definitely more agentic. Now, think about this as an example. When someone asks for what are the best clubs for someone over the age of 40, do they mean golf clubs or nightclubs? When a user opts in, Search can use past conversations and search history to give customized results to the users. And so, as these queries bring in a lot more context, we're able to absorb that context, customize our results, and provide a lot more information in the moment, in that context, customized for the last mile experience. Google is changing extremely quickly to match the expectations of the travelers in so many ways than ever done before. We've launched AI Overviews, which sits on the top of our search results page and combines the LLM experience with high quality results across the web. AI mode actually allows you to ask a lot more nuanced questions that might have taken multiple searches previously, and an example will follow shortly. We've also launched our Gemini app, which now has more than 750 million monthly active users and gives you the experience of a conversational assistant and a personalized chatbot. And lastly, just about 6 months ago, we launched in Google Maps the integration for Gemini, which allows us to serve different needs for during the moments of exploration, but also immediate action of high intent. Now, let's think about what this has done for the ecosystem, for the users. What we're observing from a user perspective is that it has unlocked a broader and a more diverse web, helping our users discover sites and content that they might have never seen before. We're seeing users visit a far greater diversity of websites than compared to traditional search. From your perspective, that is great news. It allows you to capture these users and generate business going forward with them. It allows you to provide new voices that can be heard. And this happens because as questions become quests, we can match specific intent to a more targeted content, sending users to a much wider variety of websites. And these aren't just regular users who are searching on internet like before. These are much more qualified, much more engaged users. So here's the example. Thinking about how a Safari research would have gone a few years back, it would have required multiple separate queries, starting all the way from Safari options in Africa to then going on to figure out what are the different costs in January. Now, when I think about searching in the current time, this is how I would actually type in my search query. I would just club in all of the information together. Chances are I may not even type it and just use the voice feature. Now, my expectation is that even my typos and grammar should not get in the way of Google understanding what my intent is and responding to me with a well organized, rich, and foundational knowledge. That is how expectations of Google have increased, and therefore the expectations of you have increased as well. Now, how do we make it possible to answer such queries? We use within AI mode a special technique called query fan out. What it does is it issues multiple queries at once and then searches across the entire web while tapping into our datasets of real time information across maps, knowledge graph, and local data. AI mode crafts almost like a custom response and evaluates the quality of that response. If there are any gaps detected, it issues even more searches to fill those gaps in. And you can see here why this is a supercharged version versus what search used to exist before. Now, you might be wondering, what could you do in order to show up in these new search experiences? This is where the answer is far simpler than what you might think. The answer is quite simply to be the most helpful, authoritative presence wherever your audience is looking for answers. Now, let's start off with your website. Our recommendation is to make sure that you're making your content exceptionally stand out as compared to the more redundant, more commoditized information. Facts remain the same across you and your competitors. It's easy to find. What we're looking for, what users are looking for, is understanding that nuanced context and bringing up and surfacing information that is unique to your business. Why should they choose you over any other operator who might be offering a very similar experience or answer to the user's question? That's what you need to be thinking about on your website. You also need to manage your brand wherever customers learn about you. Search is growing multimodal, and this means we need rich content to come through you as well as user generated content across forums, communities, review sites. People want authentic feedback from real people, and having detailed reviews, how to's, even explainers on YouTube and other social platforms are vital. Search is now able to surface this relevant content directly in the results. as our users become multimodal, so do the search results. At the end of the day, it's about building a holistic, valuable presence that your customers, the AI, and the agentic experiences serving them can rely on. So, to close out this section, what I would say is pay attention to three key elements. Your data continues to be the foundation on which the entire machine works. Identify who your high value customers and potential travelers are, and gain confidence in your ad spend with first party data and measurement. Secondly, focus on bringing as much rich, powerful content as you possibly can across your owned platforms. Feeds can definitely play a much stronger role than ever before in finding information across availability and pricing. And lastly, leverage AI powered campaigns that are available, which I will be speaking about in the second half shortly, which allow you to actually support giving information to the customers in a more customized, more context aware manner while enforcing high price accuracy standards to support a good checkout experience. Alistair, over to you.
Thanks, mate. That was brilliant. That's really interesting. So let me try and summarize what I'm taking out of that. Now we generally, most of the people on this listening on this call are specialist travel agents doing very specialist things. So we're not competing against the TUIs and the jet twos. And so I'm hearing you say, if you like, previously we were maybe trying to keep our information on websites as broad and general as possible to try and attract in a big hopper and maybe get to that page one search. And then once we engage with them, start sort of qualifying out. What you're saying, I think now, and tell me if I'm wrong here, is it's the opposite approach. Go as specialized as you can, make it really know what you're after. Yes, you may only be on page 26 on an old style search, but that's fine. AI will find you if you've got the information. If you've got the information, then that's what the LLMs are looking for. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Alistair, you summarized it really well over there. I don't believe the tour operators, the site owners here, they need to do anything special to reinvent for AI optimizations or schema. Basically, what you need to do is focus on original human first content. Try not to write for LLMs by breaking content into bite-sized chunks or creating like separate versions of your page. Write for people. Move away from generic commodity like content where you might be just simply restating factual information that already is available with everyone, and provide unique takes, expert opinions, and authentic first-hand experiences that AI cannot easily replicate. That is what will allow you to stand out as a business and allow your rich content to provide so much more context, which can be done when you think about people searching with images and videos. And by adapting your text with high quality visual content, you can ensure that you show up in the results alongside the AI surfaces.
Okay, and this is not, you're not particularly worrying about necessarily the formatting, the H1s and the paragraph length and things like that. It is really just focus on having a conversation with your consumer and relying on the LLMs to be able to speak literally that same language.
Exactly. I think a very simple way of understanding this or thinking about this is almost to think of what if your business was a big giant FAQ page, right? Most of these searches you'll see as they become longer, they add in more information. They are allowing the AI to give guidance on where they should be traveling, what they should be booking. And so as users rely on us and the partners, what we need to do is think of what kind of questions should we be answering that actually make us stand out as compared to the next operator down the road. And whatever that is, let's bring that out upfront, supporting with images, videos, great amount of text and nuanced original content.
That's really great. Now we've got the questions pouring in, which is absolutely fantastic, and there's some great ones. I can say already we're not going to be able to get through them all, but let's have a quick look at them before we move on to the to the next phase. I'm always conscious of time. Question about hyperdepth. Can you give more context to hyperdepth? If I'm a tailor-made tour operator organizing trips to 30 countries. How do I go hyper deep?
Excellent. So what I would typically say is think about how users used to search before, right? Like they would search almost had a syntax associated with it. If you were looking for hotels, you would just end up typing in hotels in London. Well, that's not true anymore. What people are searching now, majoritively we're seeing is queries that are longer than 8 words are actually forming the bulk of overall query volume and also happen to be growing extremely quickly. So a typical search of hotels in London has now changed to something like hotel for a family of four with indoor pool and close to all the fun activities in central London, right? So when we talk about going hyper deep, understand the context of such queries. This is where your Search Console reporting can come in super handy, where you can see what kind of queries are bringing people all over to your website. Also, additionally, what you should be doing is think about your own offerings and what can you offer from an experiential standpoint. Not just whether it's a tour of the Serengeti, but what kind of experience does your tour of the Serengeti offer? And then doubling down on that content by making sure that you're highlighting not just high level facial information, but going super deep into what does the itinerary look like? What kind of experience would you have? What kind of users would enjoy that kind of itinerary, so that whether it is somebody who's coming for the very first time to Africa for a safari tour, or whether it's somebody who's already done this a dozen times, you understand the context and what the nuance of their trip might have or endeavor, and then bring that out, have content around that, and bring that out in your search results.
Okay, so I guess the balance we've got to create as sort of brands, product itself, is there's a temptation there to bombard information at our websites and blogs and those sort of things. Now, obviously, we know LLMs can handle megabytes of information, but our clients can't necessarily. So I guess it is we've got to maybe slightly think about that. We've got even more than ever keeping that high level, attention grabbing, quick answer, real headline stuff, but not being but then allowing the depth to be there as well, without hiding the sort of hiding the headlines, hiding the summary. So that's maybe a bit of a challenge from the way we structure our information compared to previously.
Absolutely. I would additionally say that a picture speaks 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000 pictures. And so this is where utilizing high quality visuals can also allow you to go hyper deep. Make sure that your images are sharp, clear. High quality images tend to give users enough detail to easily distinguish what they're looking at and allows AI to understand what you're offering and how your offering might be different. A key thing here would be to make sure that you're embedding your images next to the text that provides context, add descriptive alternative text, give videos a dedicated space so that high quality videos, while embedded on the page, are also placed next to the text that gives exact relevance to the video's content. The basics do not change, Alistair, to your point.
Yeah.
Optimizing for titles, for description, just like you would do it for a regular web page, let's say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, those basic fundamentals continue to hold true.
Okay, good. Now, one more question, and then we're going to crack on because we are rapidly time is going away from us, and this is absolutely fascinating. So, I guess the big question I know everyone's thinking about, and our second one today was, okay, we're giving all this information to help the LLMs answer the queries, but how do we get sent back the customers who are doing those queries? Because links don't appear or they seem to be pretty well hidden in the sort of Gemini responses and the other LLM responses.
Yeah, I think so. There's multiple ways in which what we're observing users respond to AI surfaces. Number one is users are doing a lot of their research on these surfaces and then going over to the publishers directly. The second thing is we're seeing even when they do click out, the quality of the visits that these users have is so much better than ever before. And the reason for that is because users have already done their research on these surfaces. They are much more qualified. They know exactly what they're looking for. Having read the results, when they end up on the website, we see that click back, which basically is when you click on a Google search result, you land on the landing page, and then you come back. We're seeing that click back numbers are down year over year, we're also noticing that users are spending quality time on these landing pages. So the time of stay as well as the page depth on partner pages have increased. And the way to track this would be to make sure that you're mapping your overall search traffic. Now, traffic coming in from AI experiences like AI overviews and AI mode currently get grouped together with your regular search traffic, and it's available in the Search Console performance report. The other thing that I would say is look beyond just the amount of traffic that is coming in, but try and also ascertain through either time of stay or page depth or other Google Analytics metrics to understand the quality of these visits.
Okay, so we're going to move on. So you're saying, yeah, you may get less links directly from the sort of the AI responses, in that sense, but they're likely to be much better qualified and much more valuable links for the customers. In summary, but I guess it's early days for all of us, and I think it's encouraging that that GEO, that this new search should be helping the specialist operators like us, even if it's helping our customers almost build specialist trips independently as well. So there's a sort of, as always, there's a balance going on there. Anyway, let's move on because we're cracking. I can see we're already going to be running a few minutes over, but that's okay. This is good. This is good stuff. So let's go on to the second half, which is the paid for, the advertising side of things. Over to you, Ellie.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to paid, the best way to think about Google offerings is that when you have the best AI, you end up receiving the best ROI. What we're seeing is we've launched 3 key campaign features that are now available to our partners, namely you all, across the board within Google Ads. Number one, AI Max. We released AI Max earlier, early last year, where we're seeing that AI Max is now able to drive 27% more conversions at a similar CPA and ROAS target that you might have from before. Additionally, Demand Gen allows you to showcase your users and drive your offerings to your users and drive consideration in order to push for new customer acquisition by building consideration. We've observed Demand Gen drive 26% year-over-year increase for every dollar spent across the board. Lastly, Performance Max, which has been around for over 3 years now, we're observing within travel, performance users that are leveraging PMax, they end up getting much higher ROI than compared to Meta's Advantage Plus. So let's dive into each of these. Like I mentioned, we just launched AI Max for search campaigns, and AI Max learns from your landing pages, from your ads, and even your existing keyword list to figure out what are the most relevant queries during the most relevant context in order to show your ad. It comprises of 3 key features: search term matching, which is where we match with queries that go beyond your keywords; text customization, this is where we take in and absorb the context of the query and customize your ad creatives while remaining within the boundaries of your guidance; and lastly, URL expansion. This is where if we identify a landing page on your domain will enhance or increase the probability of driving a conversion, we choose that landing page instead of the one that you've just given us. Now, including these answers into conversation is the next step here. AI overviews and AI mode users agree that they're able to make decisions faster and more confidently because of the results that are being surfaced. So ads are being introduced into these experiences. Now they can show up as a direct response as well as helpful actions in AI mode. We've already released ads in the AI mode and AI overviews experience in the US, and we should shortly expect them to arrive on our shows. Now, this is exclusively being demonstrated here on the webinar. We'll be making a much bigger announcement around this next week during our GML or Google Marketing Live event. We're launching something called AI Briefs, where you can provide rich context by informing AI on your business and what you want your messages to say and who you want to reach. So you'll observe in this video, we are showcasing that you can just come in and dump your context on business, which is exactly what you have and nobody else does. And based on what you've given us, your structured and unstructured information, we'll figure out the right keywords, the right messages, and use that to reach out to your customers. Now, some of you might be concerned about transparency and control. Well, let me put those concerns to rest. What we're doing is launching targeting controls, brand controls, and creative controls in order to give you enough control and transparency across all three features that make AI Max AI Max. So, like I said, the first feature is search term matching. Now, this is where you will have the visibility into every single search query that you're showing up against, and you can choose which of these queries are irrelevant to your business and you don't want to show up against, and leverage the negative keywords feature. Secondly, we said you will have text customization. So you will have the functionality of leveraging brand inclusion as well as exclusion settings to guide the system on what kind of creatives, what kind of tonality to maintain with the ad creation. Lastly, we mentioned that there will be a feature for URL expansion. You once again remain in control. You can decide which URLs can be excluded and included in order for AI to consider its new universe when thinking about figuring out the best landing page across your domain. Now, beyond search, when we think about YouTube and Google overall together, nothing compares to the performance you get by combining your media activation across the board. We drive 21% higher ROAS versus all other media, and we connect your marketing to real business outcomes and not just outdated media KPIs. To see this clearly, what we are asking our partners is to focus on outcomes. Ensure that you have a holistic source of truth with trusted and accurate models. It's the only way to see exactly which dollars are working the hardest for you. And once you have that view, you'll see immediately that you're able to align yourselves in a much more relevant, much more powerful, and much more profitable manner with your potential traveler needs. So, in one short message, be where your customers are in real time. Only Google and YouTube cover the entire customer journey, pun intended. And from the first spark of inspiration to the final booking confirmation, Google is the hub that 32% of travelers say they cannot plan without. We are connecting every stage of the journey to drive growth for your business. Over to you, Alistair.
Thanks. That's great. So, as I say, I built my first travel business on Google AdWords, so I'm very familiar with it, and it's and frankly, I've become a bit disillusioned by it. The amount of time it takes to update it. I have calls from Google representatives the last 10 years saying, "Hey, try this news feature." Every feature I've tried with them has failed. So if I'm coming at it a little bit negatively, you'll forgive me on that. But it feels like, yes, it's screaming out for a new interface where I can have a conversation with Google AdWords, making sure that the Google understands exactly what is unique about my business, who I don't want to be. I mean, the great example I always use is, our number one destination is Morocco, and I still advertise Morocco holidays, even though we don't do the big hotels, we don't do the coach tours. We're very specialist boutique and everything, so we know there's an awful lot of waste. And so, how will the new system allow me to be much more accurate, much faster, have much more engaged conversation with the advertising? And when's it coming?
No, absolutely, Alistair. I think that's a fantastic question, and I agree with you. Let's pick that example that you said, which is holidays in Morocco. Now, if you are a tour operator that is dealing with luxury vacations and stays versus somebody who's doing a much more of, let's say, a rugged road experience, those two are very separate and unique experiences, and they don't overlap. However, the user, when they are thinking about making this trip, they might come to Google and actually just make that very search. Both those users may type in the exact same words, but expect completely different results and context. This is where AI briefs, which I just demonstrated, will come in super handy. What happens is you now have the luxury of describing not only what your business is and what it caters and provides, but also whom does it cater to? Who are your ideal customers? What are the kind of users that you want to go after? You can provide all of that nuance into AI briefs going forward. Furthermore, when you think about AI Max, that is the reason why AI Max is not restricting itself just to the keywords, because as we mentioned, keywords do not give enough context. Searches do, behavior does. And this is where, by looking at your landing pages, at your ad creatives, AI Max will be able to ascertain what is your offering, what kind of customers should you be showing up for, so that when I search for Morocco holidays and you search for Morocco holidays, only the most relevant context is accounted for when figuring out which businesses should even show up in that results page.
Okay, and so when's this coming, and when's this for us then?
So I would ask you to please wait till next week. Like I said, we've got our flagship event, Google Marketing Live, and that is where we'll be making more announcements with regards to the upcoming features and the timelines.
I can see we're going to have to invite you back when it's launched, Lalit, to start to then show us all how it works. But I think it's, for me, I know there's a bit of a sort of split in the audience. I'm sure it's the same here. We don't do advertising. We only do natural search. For me, there's a combination of both, and I'm optimistic that the paid for route can vastly increase efficiency, and we'll enter a new era that's simpler for us to use and providing higher returns for it. Anyway, that's enough about me rabbiting
Absolutely.
on. Okay, we're going to give Lally a little break just now, and what we've been doing is we're going to ask Harriet from Vamoos, who's the Vamoos head of marketing, marketing manager, to join us, and she's going to be running through what she's been doing some work on the Vamoos website, and she's going to use her learnings from that to say what she thinks our travel partners should be doing here and now to improve AI travel search. So over to you, Harriet.
Hi everyone. So as Alistair mentioned, I'm going to be building on what Lalit has shared to give you an actionable plan for getting found by AI search. So GEO is quickly becoming one of the most powerful marketing channels, but because it's so new, a lot of the best practices are still being figured out. However, what we do know is that it's very linked to SEO. So if you've already done some SEO, the good news is you're not starting from scratch here. So the best way to think about it as a travel company is that there are two types of AI queries that you need to show up for. One is one through the content you own on your own site, and the other is one through the earned content others write about you on the internet. So the first type is someone planning a trip. They might be searching LLMs for things like the best time to visit Japan, 7-day Kenya safari itinerary, tips for solo female travelers over 50, or how much does a luxury Antarctica trip cost? These are all informational searches, and the user isn't ready to book with a travel company yet, as they're still considering their trip. So the goal here is to be cited by AI as a source of information, which comes from your own website content. So you may recognize this. This is what a citation would look like. When someone searches for the best time to visit Japan, Trailfinder's own content is being cited as a source in the AI overview. The second type of search is further down the funnel. So the traveler knows they want to go on a trip, and now they're choosing which company to book with. They might be searching things like best small group tour operators for Patagonia, Scott Dunn versus Black Tomato for honeymoons, is Scott Dunn reliable, who should I book with for a 60th in Antarctica? So the goal here is recommendation. You want AI to recommend you by name, which comes from earned content, which is what others are saying about you on the internet. And here is what a recommendation looks like. AI returns a curated shortlist, so it's telling the user who to choose, not where to click. So how do you win at both? You might have heard people saying GEO is just SEO, and they're partially right. SEO is 90% of the work. GEO is the extra 10% on top. And this is because AI engines, as Lalit showed us, they search the web the same way that humans do. So if you're ranking highly on Google, you'll likely be cited by LLMs too. So these are the 4 pillars of SEO and GEO. The first, technical site foundation. This basically means, is your site SEO friendly? Is it crawlable, fast, and does it have structured data? This is probably something that you would need a developer to help with. However, AI tools like Claude can now run technical audits to show you if you have any issues that need fixing. 2, on-site optimization. This is the content on your own web pages, which I'll cover on the next slide. 3, off-site authority. So backlinks have always mattered for SEO, but third-party mentions and reviews now matter even more for GEO. So I'll also talk about that next. And 4th, monitor and iterate. So use tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs to track Google rankings and LLM mentions. So pillar 2, on-site. AI citations are won on your site through the content you own. So as LLMs run live web searches and they cite what they find on Google, your job is to make sure that your pages are being ranked as you traditionally would with SEO. So traditional SEO is all about keywords, identifying the keywords that your audience searches for and weaving those terms into things like headings, metadata, copy, and alt tags, and also organizing your content into content clusters via internal linking between articles that are about the same topic. GEO is the same discipline pretty much, but instead of keywords, you're identifying the questions that your audience is asking LLMs. So conversational, full sentence queries, then you write the content that answers them. So a few things to think about for GEO content: use question-led headings and answer that question in the very first sentence. Include FAQs throughout and lots of facts that can be quoted, as the ultimate goal is to be cited as a direct source. This orderly travel example does this perfectly. As you can see, keyword in the meta title, the question as the heading, and the direct answer in the first sentence. Easy. Pillar 3 is offsite. So AI recommendations are won off your site from what others say about you online. So AI is the internet's biggest gossip. If everyone online is saying you're the best, in reviews on Reddit, on Wikipedia, in PR and listicles, LLMs will say it too. So I won't go into all of these today, obviously because we don't have time, but the principle is the same across all of them. If you're mentioned consistently, LLMs will recommend you. So how can you get these mentions? You obviously don't need to do all of this at once. The easiest one to start with is reviews. As a travel company, you could automate a post-trip email or send a push notification via your app after clients are home, and reach out to them to your top repeat clients and ask them for reviews personally, then direct them to review sites such as Google, Trustpilot, and TripAdvisor, because these are the ones that LLMs draw from the most heavily. Testimonials on your own site don't carry the same weight with AI as the reviews on third-party platforms. And if you have the resources, posting videos on YouTube, again, as Lalit mentioned, it's really worth the investment because LLMs are increasingly pulling from video transcripts. But as you can see here in this ChatGPT recommendation algorithm pie chart, the top cited source is actually authoritative list mentions. So that is why PR is your single highest leverage GEO move. Being named in Condé Nast Traveller's best tour operators or shortlisted for TTG's top 50 isn't just a vanity win anymore, but every credible publication that names you is actually teaching LLMs to recommend you as well. So in terms of getting there, you could build a target list of publications that your ideal client reads, pitch to them one story angle each quarter, use a freelance publicist if PR isn't your strong point, and enter awards. Even a shortlist appearance in an award article gets you onto authoritative lists. And if names like this seem out of reach for you, if you're a smaller tour operator, start with a niche blog or a regional supplement, because every credible third-party mention counts. So getting started is always the hard part. I'm aware that I've just given you a lot of information. So here are 3 actionable things that you can do before Monday. Firstly, audit yourself. Ask ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini the questions that you believe your customers are asking and see if you're mentioned, and make sure you're recording the results. Secondly, rewrite one existing blog post in GEO style. So edit it so that you've got a question-led heading, answering the question in the first sentence, and including figures for extraction. And 3, pitch to one publication or ask your top 10 repeat clients for some public reviews. And if you do these things, you are already ahead of 90% of travel companies. So, GEO only works if the experience lives up to the recommendation. If AI sends someone to you and the trip falls flat, then they're not going to leave good reviews. So that's where Vamoos comes in. They're not being sent a PDF itinerary that could be buried in their inbox, but a beautifully designed, branded app that gives your clients a seamless experience from booking to long after they get home. This is the kind of experience that they just can't help but post about. So you're with them at every stage of the journey. The moment they book, your app is on their phone, your logo and a live countdown that turns the wait into part of the experience. Then before the trip, you can drip feed them documents and guides, building excitement week by week. On the trip, they'll have a travel companion in their pocket. They'll have offline itineraries, maps, live flight updates, direct messaging, and post-trip, a time notification can ask them for a review and also ask them if they want to book again with you. And that can become the kind of earned content that LLMs pick up. So if you'd like to see what's possible, scan this QR code to book a demo with a member of our very friendly team. And if you'd like a record of my GEO action plan, keep an eye out for the guide that we'll be sending around with the webinar recording next week. And that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Great, thanks, Harriet. That's amazing. It is really interesting. I notice from my experience, we've always sent people a review quest using Vamoos at the end of the trip. This is the Flea Winter, and it's been very interesting for me that we use mainly we're a member of ATO, the Association of Specialist Travel Agents. It used to be that Google couldn't index their search material because in some way it wasn't their feedback material, but now I'm seeing that coming up more and more because it's done in such a consumer friendly way. Even though it wasn't particularly SEO friendly, it's very GEO friendly. So yes. Now look, we're over time already slightly, but let's see what's let's see if there's a final question. I mean, I think there's one question about this for you, Harriet. You know, we're a small team with no in-house SEO. Is this realistic for us?
Yes, definitely. So obviously there's a lot of work that can go into this, but I think the trick is to just start small, do what you can, as I mentioned, with those three things you can do this week. And also now with AI tools like Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, you can also use those to help you write your content. So when in the past you might have to hire a specialist copywriter or an SEO specialist, you can now actually create a lot of this content yourself. Obviously, you need a human to review it and sense check it and make sure it's in your sort of brand tone of voice. But yeah, there is definitely a lot that you can do. It's just sort of prioritizing it and making the time.
No, you're right. It's a lot. Some of these things have always been daunting, and it's a lot easier than it used to be using these same tools. And you don't have to do all of them. If you think you want to do, if you like doing little videos, whether you're when traveling or even just talking about a specific angle of a trip, then do a 5 minute video and get up there. If you like writing blogs, then I'll help you write a blog. So it's not a question of having to do everything. Do what you enjoy, do what comes naturally to you, and I feel sure that's what'll work best for it. Okay, that's really great. So, summarising, all the work you've been doing on SEO has been absolutely fantastic in the past. As Lalit was saying, let's get more and more. Don't be frightened of giving out more and more information, and as I say, and think of it in a more conversational manner. Think of it in FAQ terms. So, Lalit, anything for you just to finish off? Any observations or thoughts on what our listeners and viewers should be getting on with when they get back to their desk in about 5 minutes' time?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I would just reiterate that you should be looking at AI written content as a tool and not just as like completely an author. And this is where I think Harriet's suggestion makes so much more sense, where you do need manual intervention. You do want to design content that is meant for human, that is reviewed by human, that is produced by human and enhanced by AI. And that is going to be your best path forward in order to avoid getting into the commodity trap. The same tools are, more broadly speaking, available to you and to your competitors. And so the key thing that will differentiate you is not the tools that you're using, but what you're inputting into those tools, the intelligence that you're providing and the context that you're providing into those tools. So a big plus one to what Harriet said. And that is where I would recommend the listeners here, the attendees, to focus in terms of figuring out what makes you stand out. Why would you book a tour with your company, and use those to input into the AI tools in order to generate content.
Right. Well, I think that's a great note to finish on. Thank you very much. Sorry, we've run a few minutes over time. It sounds like we're going to have to try and drag Lalit back again sometime in the future, because this is a developing story, as they say. There's going to be lots more coming at us. So, finally, from me to say thank you to Lalit, thank you for Harriet for taking us through that, and back to you, Georgia.
Thanks, Alistair, and thank you everybody for joining. Massive thank you to Lalit and Harriet for taking the time to contribute today. Also appreciate everyone who spent the time to join us and ask so many questions. I appreciate we didn't get around to answering all of them, but like Alistair said, there'll be more to follow, and we'll try and cover them in the takeaways next week. I hope everyone took something away today. We'll be sending out the recording and the presentations. Also, if you're interested in finding out more about Vamoos, then you can book a demo with us today by scanning the QR code on your screen. Thank you very much, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and hopefully speak to you soon. Bye.